Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Game of Loans podcast. Now, today's guest will be very familiar to a lot of you, I'm sure. I know him as Aren Dev. You will probably know him as the anxious investor. Aren, how are you doing? Welcome to the Game of Loans podcast.
I'm very well, thank you. Enjoyed our chat just before we press record, so I'm looking forward to this one, mate.
Me too. And for those of you that are listening to this, you won't see that Aren's got a very awesome yellow background. Mine literally has a sales whiteboard in the background for my company. So hopefully it's too small for any of you to read what all my figures are. But those of you that are watching maybe some of these clips on YouTube, don't zoom in too closely. Aren, again, thanks so much for coming on. Look, for those, I know that there's a lot of people that have got a lot of time and a lot of respect and really enjoy the content that you're pumping out on Instagram and YouTube in particular. But for those that have been living under a rock for the last couple of months, let us know a little bit more about you and tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I've kind of taken on this name, the anxious investor. It's more recent, actually, if I'm being completely honest. So anxiety is a part of my life. I kind of call it like my shadow, just to give a bit of context into myself and my personality. And I think only when I understood anxiety, I kind of embraced it. And I thought, actually, that's my competitive advantage. In a world where you want to try and separate yourself from other people, I know a lot of people struggle with anxiety, and especially with property as well. So I'm a full-time property investor as well. People have anxieties around that. You know, you're spending a lot of money, you're doing things that you're not necessarily sure if that's the right thing to be doing. So yeah, I'm a full-time property investor. I am an anxious guy most of the time. I do a lot of work with mental health. I've been doing it for best part of 8-9 years. That's probably where my passion is, if I'm being completely honest, to try and help people with their mental health, with their anxieties, with their adversities in life. So I have two podcasts, which you probably know, Find Your Voice, and we have a close knit one in our community called the Black Country Blokes, where we help men just conversate, just have conversations that I think are so important, yet considered so taboo almost. Just telling people, I cried the other day, or I'm struggling, for example. Real authentic conversation. So that's actually what I love the most, because that allows me to be myself. I bring myself out. But in terms of the work side, which I actually find the boring side, but funnily enough, my audience, they get more excited by it, is the property side. So I've gone from, I was landlord just over 9 years ago at 25. I had a job in London. I was earning more money than I knew what to do with at the time, coming from humble beginnings. My mum essentially made me save that, and then we ended up buying a random house. So I bought a house at 25, never really thought about property. I've never really been motivated by money. And you can probably see that through a lot of my messages. So as much as I use it to entice the audience, I then want to try and give them different messages. So cut a long story short, I've done other stuff, like I was a social worker. I tried to change the world that way. I did a bit of boxing, done some project management. And me and the wife have just started a health business called Health Excel, where it's superfoods to help people with their physical and mental health. So everything kind of comes back around, I suppose, full circle to health and well-being. That's what you're going to get from me on a deeper level. But in terms of content, yeah, I bring in the audience by telling them about buy-to-lets, flips, and hopefully this year we're going to be doing some new developments. So I've kind of worked my way up from £40,000 properties to our next site, the NGDV is 2.6 million,
Nice.
which for myself was a dream. It was always a dream to build one house, and now potentially over two sites, we're going to be building over 20 units. So it's a learning process for myself, and my promise to my audience is I would document that for free. I will piss off every guru out there selling a course, because you'll learn it for free if you follow. That's kind of like my little, I suppose, exchange that I require. But yeah, that's me. I'm just a normal guy navigating my way through life. Nothing special whatsoever about me, other than I just try really hard. I think, you can get very far in life if you just keep trying, pivoting, learning, persevering, and just staying true to yourself and just believing and trusting the process. Try and find something in that day that gets you out of bed, because property isn't what you see on social media or people waving keys and fun times. It's like 6 bad days, and then you get that one day where you can kind of breathe and you think, okay, I've made a bit of progress here. So that's what I try and at least articulate the best I can through my content.
Yeah, do you know what? It's again, I'm watching you, and I can see. I've done so many of these episodes now, right? And I'm not one of those hosts, and I'm not saying that there are bad hosts out there. Everyone's brilliant hosts, but I'm one of those hosts that when you're talking, I watch what you're saying and I listen to what you're saying, and because I'm genuinely interested. I only invite people onto the podcast that I'm genuinely interested in. I get a lot of people actually reach out to me like, "Can I come on your podcast?" I'm like, "How do I say no in the nicest possible way?" But when you were talking there, your shoulders went up and your eyes opened when you were talking about health and well-being. And, when you mentioned your wife and business, when you talk about the property, it's like, yeah, means to an end. And I think, do you know what? There's so many, this is what pisses me off. There's so many people out there that are just like, you need to live, breathe, sleep, eat, property. And it's like, no, actually, it can just be a means to an end. And there are other things in life other than, I mean, yeah, I know you're excited about the whole, I've gone from 40,000 to 2.6. Great, amazing. And that, don't show that off at all. But it's the other stuff, isn't it? It's the property makes up a little foundation of freedom to allow you to go and really pursue the things in life that are worthwhile and make a difference.
Brilliantly said, mate. My goal, and I suppose I'll give you an insight into my blueprint of my goals for 5 years. It's to entice people through the property, but then teach people that the reason I do property is my vehicle to give me my time back. If it wasn't for property, I wouldn't be able to do podcasts. I wouldn't be able to jump on episodes like this. I wouldn't be able to sit around in my jogging bottoms all day doing the things that I love to do, essentially. And that's what I want to encourage people to do. It's not let's chase 300, 400, 500 properties at the expense of your health, for example. It's actually get enough and then find something in that day that inspires you, gives you purpose and wakes you up. And that's kind of where I am at. But obviously, organically, as you grow and you learn stuff, you start to move to bigger projects. So I've never really tried to run before I could walk. It was always small projects, every time just incrementally getting slightly bigger. And where I'm at now is kind of just, I suppose, a natural progression. And yeah, I'm excited for it. But if I could get paid for my podcasting, I'd probably just do podcasting all the time, if I'm being completely transparent with you, or if the health business went well. But again, it's a means to an end. It pays the bills. It gets me out of work. We're almost got my wife out of work. So she's working 1 day now as opposed to 5 days. So September's the goal, hopefully get her out. But I'm trying to use YouTube for that. I'm trying to bring on all these streams of income just to get her out of work and then kind of live life that way. But yeah, I just want to commend you as well very quickly. So I'm a podcast guest. I don't think I'm the most charismatic or entertaining in terms of being on the mic. No, honestly, on the mic, I struggle. I mean, if you hear him, there's so many cuts because I'm making mistakes all the time. But I always say my biggest skill set is listening. And I think it's so important when you invite someone on to listen, because how you then respond back to that, what that person said, that's key. And, you've done that brilliantly. So I applaud you as a podcaster.
I've gone red, You've got your big yellow background and I've gone red. So
there you go.
That's not a good look, is it? Do you know what? It's I get what you mean when you were saying earlier about the not being motivated by money thing, which is weird. And do you know what? We were saying before about, how being a broker, I don't really fit the mold of being a broker. And do you know how many jobs I've gone through in my life because it's not because I haven't been successful. It's just because I haven't fitted in,
Yeah.
I'm not that suit wearing, shine my shoes every morning, kind of person. And actually, I worked in one job once where they literally used to take the piss out of me and call me like stick of the dumb because my hair was a mess, and because I just didn't see the importance of that. And for me, it's never been really about the money. It's been about what that money allows you to do. Because I think this whole thing about money doesn't buy you happiness, I think it's more complex than that. It's not money. Money doesn't buy you happiness, but having money affords you the time to maybe explore your happiness in a bit more, in a greater capacity. And so that for me is the same with Grand Union. My company is, my focus is not actually on the money. It's about building a really awesome, sustainable business that serves a lot of people, and for the people that work within the organization have an amazing quality of life and work-life balance that they look forward to coming to work in the morning. And I don't think that there is that many companies, unfortunately, in my industry that have that. So I get exactly what you're talking about when you say it's not about the money. And I actually have said to people before, I think if money is the only thing that motivates you, I think you will lose.
100%. I think that's beautifully said. I think you touched on a point right at the beginning there. It's in terms of what money can do for you. And I always say exposure is like the key. The more things you can expose yourself to, it's so paramount in terms of just your perspective, a way of thinking, trying new things. I mean, podcasting, for example, I love connecting with people, but years ago, that would have absolutely scared the hell out of me. YouTube, for example, if I could choose one thing to do every day, other than eat a lot of food and not put weight on, it'd probably be YouTube. Honestly, it would just be creating content. I love that I can make such a boring video, but then I can manipulate it to at least try and make it exciting. And that again comes through having the ability that I haven't got to go to work 9 to 5 for somebody else, and having that flexibility to work on my craft, on my editing, for example. So yeah, I think it's refreshing what you're doing. And I think I'm not sure when you started, so it'd be nice to hear when you kind of started. But when I started, going to network meetings in a hoodie and jogging bottoms was unseen of. People were coming in shirts and stuff, and I was like, that's not me.
You get the property investor uniform. I don't know if you've noticed this, which is like a shirt, a kind of a tweed jacket, some like dark jeans or chinos, and then some like brogues or some brown boots. Literally, like that's the property investor uniform.
I've seen it. I've seen so many, and I've even toyed with the idea of going to Top Man and buying that kind of outfit, but I thought I can't do that because one, I already struggle as it is in front of like big groups, and I was like, I need to feel comfortable. And I think now you're seeing that, especially with social media being so big now, you can pretty much be whoever you want. And I'm kind of glad I did that from the beginning, and it's refreshing to see that you're doing that with the business as well.
Yeah, do you know what? I read a book years ago called The Cell, and it's by a guy called Frederick Erkland, who I only realized recently actually is on like a reality TV show in America. And I'm not like the biggest fan of that style of TV, but I have like watched it, see what it's like, and it is a bit cringe. He's on the program's called $1 Million Listing New York. And he's like he's an estate agent basically, or realtor as they call them in America. And in the book, he basically, one of the things that just stands out for me, it's a big old book, but the one thing that I picked out of it was be yourself, because you will then attract people that like who you are and want to work with you. And then all your clients and customers are people that you probably are going to get on with a lot better. So your whole life becomes better. So don't like mask the stuff that makes you. And he's quite flamboyant, and he's originally Swedish, so he's got that kind of background, and very like Campus Christmas, which is just wicked. And that's him, and people like working with him for that reason, and he's become incredibly successful. So I think I certainly saw that when I broke out from that mold of, my last job before I started Grand Union, I had to wear a shirt and tie and a jacket every day. Like what? Why? I didn't even see clients half the time because we were just doing phone calls because we were so busy. So what was the point? It's absolutely pointless. I just think be yourself. I joke, Grand Union, wear hoodies, not ties, because of that. And that should be a hashtag, shouldn't it, really?
Yeah. I might apply for a job, mate, if we can dress like that. But I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think being yourself is one of the things that deterred me away from property training courses. So essentially you have a script for everything, a script for how you speak to an estate agent, a script for how you speak to investors. And that was probably the only thing I never really took on, because I thought, firstly, that's going to give me more anxiety that if I mess up what I'm supposed to say next, I'm going to absolutely crumble in that moment. And I realized that it's a people game, and some people will get on with me, some people won't. But if I can just be myself, at least then I've attracted the right person into my circle. And this is how I've raised like over £1 million in finance. And I say to people, and people always say, what's the magic? I was like, there is no magic. You don't need no color scheme. You don't need no fancy text or Canva. You just be yourself. And if you can be yourself and get yourself in front of as many eyes as possible, even your friends and family to start with, people will invest in you, providing you're a credible person. Obviously, if you're a douchebag, then it's not going to happen. But it is really about being yourself, because if you're just scripted, could you imagine 50 to 100 people coming off a course all saying the exact same words, and you're on the other side thinking, here we go again. And what used to differentiate me was I used to tell people I was a little bit shy, or I used to say I'm the podcast guy who's got a mental health podcast. Straight away when I'm sending emails back saying, hi, it's Aren, any update on this property? By the way, it's the podcast guy. Straight away, they remember me. That's unique. That's different. And I suppose now I've kind of found that with the anxious investor as well. I kind of just, I wear it with a badge of honor now rather than kind of hiding it. And, I'd encourage people to do that as well. The thing that you think might be a disadvantage could actually be your advantage.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And as you say, like for me personally, I've found that almost on the flip side of what you just said is if you try too hard to fit into that mold, then it doesn't come across natural. And the worst thing, imagine if the people want to do business with that version of you that isn't you. Like, can you imagine how shit that would be?
Mate, Mate.
That's dreadful. I used to get it all the time. Like I had a job, and so I decided, we had to dress smart, and I thought, you know what, there's only one thing I can do to make myself a little bit more like flamboyant, a little bit of me, which was I used to wear like the most ridiculous socks, like with my suits. So they'd be like a luminous yellow, or they'd be like stupid patterns, or whatever it might be. And I remember we were like field brokers. So we only actually got together as a team of brokers once a quarter or something like that. And I remember once turning up, and I was like really happy with myself because I was top of the tree, like top of the league in terms of the sales figures and numbers of submissions and cross referrals. I was literally top in the league of, there was like 30 brokers in the company. I was the best out of all of them. And I was really, really looking forward to that meeting because I knew I was going to get praised. And do you know that all the other brokers in it, all they did was take the piss out of my socks the entire time I was in there. And it made me feel so shit because I was like, do you know what? I actually reached a lot of those targets by pretending to be you lot, the rest of the brokers that were in the room. I followed the scripts that you guys follow. I said the stuff that I'd heard you say that was successful. I've come in here and I've achieved all this stuff based on being a fake version of myself that's based on what all you guys are doing. And you guys all turn around, instead of saying well done, you're taking the piss out of the only bit of me that I'm showing you.
Yeah.
And that was actually really tough to take. And I remember after those meetings, we always used to go out for a beer. I went straight home. Just wasn't. I was so down in the dumps off the back of that. It just made me feel like absolute crap. So I'm a great believer as well. Just be yourself, and
Absolutely.
like I said, the people that gravitate towards you are going to like love you for you, and that's the best type of business you can start building. To be honest.
100%, mate. And I think if mental health and being in that space has taught me anything, it's that the importance of relationships, like real relationships and your loved ones. Like the thing that makes me happy, not is I'm going to make X amount of profit on this property. It's I have best friends that will do anything for me tomorrow at the drop of a call. I could literally ask someone to refinance their house, put their eyes in debt tomorrow. And there's probably more than one person I could do that with. I have loved ones. My parents are fortunately still alive as well. There's so many things that are so much more important to myself. And I think when you're not being yourself, firstly, you're going to lose those important people. And this is where I see a lot of people who are chasing money, for example, trying to put on this new persona. And it's like, when you have that money, who's going to be around? You're going to be sitting with those people essentially who could potentially one day laugh at you when you actually show your true self, for example. And it's a dangerous vicious circle. I think we just have our priorities a little bit messed up. And maybe that's the way social media kind of brings you in and makes you feel like you're not enough if you're not achieving X, Y, and Z. Like you were saying, like, you should be constantly on it 20. No, you don't have to do anything. You can just make yourself happy every day. That's it.
I know. I was going to ask you something actually. Do you think that the sitting in front of a probably, let's be honest, rented for the day Lamborghini on Instagram is like the new model size 4 on the front of like an OK magazine, like
Yeah,
that's like the new version of that, isn't it?
it is. It's crazy. That's all I see. It's like, are you even a property investor if you haven't got that? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I try and show this, but it's difficult because at the same time, especially when you're trying to grow a brand or an audience, you almost have to be a little bit clickbait as well. Like I have to say certain things in a certain way, and I know that's going to give me some negative kind of responses as well, and I have to kind of ride that wave. But yeah, it's I do worry for people. I mean, I'm 34 now. I worry for the younger generation. I feel my life was so much easier when I was at university and enjoying myself. I didn't have this comparison stuff. This is why up until the last few weeks, I was away from Instagram. I don't like Instagram because everyone's just showing you how perfect they are. Or you get the clever ones who kind of use psychology and then they'll throw in the old, it's okay not to be okay, and the little bit of mental health stuff. And again, even that grinds my gears. As much as I support mental health, I think either do it with a good heart, but don't use it as a clickbait to try and get followers as well. So yeah, it's a strange way. And I think the more I watch people, the more I'm like, come on, just like you said, just be yourself. I promise you, for the next 6 months, you be yourself. You'll be happier. You'll attract more investors, and you'll get further in whatever you're doing.
Completely agree. Now, talking about clickbait though,
Yeah.
I know we were talking about this before, and I've for everyone that's listening, Aaron's YouTube channel is literally one of my favorites because it is no bullshit, and the quality of the video is just great, and you're just talking about stuff that you know about because you're experienced now. You've just said, I started from humble beginnings. I'm doing these these projects now. you know, you're a big deal, you know, so you know what you're talking about. But there was one that's on my watch list to watch tomorrow. I've got a train journey down to London. It's on my list of stuff to watch tomorrow. And you mentioned that you're actually talking less about property on this one, more about, you know, your journey on social media and how you've used it and how you've been successful, particularly on Instagram. And there's one thing on there that I noticed in the notes where you said that there was something you did that Gary Vee stole from you. Now, is that clickbait or is this genuine?
No. To be honest, it's funny. So I say this to the wife, and you can get the wife on here, although she knows nothing about property, bless her. Is there's certain things I've said in life, and you know, Gary's heard this from somebody else as well. But I've seen an influencer say it later on. I'm like, oh my god! Like if I was more famous, I would get that kind of props. So funnily enough, Gary talks about this thing where he thinks about his parents dying in the first thing in the morning. If you go back and find your voice, I did a podcast. I did a Toastmaster speech on it called Morbid Motivation. Essentially, it's the same thing. When I started interviewing people who have had life worse than myself, it made me appreciate life in a different way. I don't need to get cancer to know what it's like to live every day because I've seen people die from cancer, for example. So I use this thing called morbid motivation, which is essentially I wake up in the morning, I think of the most important people in my life, I'm grateful. But then I think, what if something bad happens to him? How would I now tackle this day? So that was definitely something that, yeah, obviously he never heard me, but he said afterwards.
You don't know that.
You know, I'll have to speak to him one day. But essentially he kind of came out with it. And the other one was just about documenting the journey and stuff as well. So when I started property full time, I think like about 5 years ago, on Facebook, I was posting my losses mainly because I was only making losses. I wasn't really making any wins. And I was like the worst property investor in the world. So essentially I was posting, you know, I did this today and I lost some money here, or I'd made this mistake, and people were gravitating towards that. And essentially all I was doing was documenting my journey. I never run out of content. People always say, how are you consistently thinking of content? I'm like, just talk about what you've done in the day and dissect that in 30, 40 ways. So then obviously about 2 or 3 years later, he wrote this PDF stuff about documented stuff. And I was like, Gary, you've got to stop doing this, because essentially it's kind of what I was doing. But
yeah, you know, come on, man. Yeah.
It's plagiarism. Absolutely. But again, it's one of those things. Obviously I always believe that even now, like I'm getting a lot of messages on my Instagram, for example, and people are putting me on a pedestal. And I really hate that, because I'm the most normal guy in the world. My anxiety is I don't get a chance to respond to everyone because I don't have the time. Like there's 90 something messages, and I feel bad. I feel bad because they're obviously sending me a message and hoping for a response. But I'm like, if I just respond to that, I just become somebody who just does DMs all day. And the funny thing is, the things I'm saying, I've been saying them 3 weeks ago and nobody was listening. Now I have an audience. All of a sudden it's like, wow, your stuff's amazing. I'm like, it's the same stuff. It's exactly the same stuff.
Do you know, my wife actually said this to me, I think it might have been even last night.
Yeah.
I said exactly the same thing to her. I said, I get real anxiety over not responding to messages. And I'm sure you get a lot more than me, but certainly in the last few months, they've really ramped up. And it is hard. And as much as I don't know if you get the same, I get a real buzz when I see like the message request on Instagram. I'm like, oh, somebody wants to speak to me, or they've responded to a story or something like that. And I love it. Like I get a genuine buzz from helping people, but on the same side, I get an incredible amount of anxiety in not being able to respond to people. And sometimes I'm just so busy, and I like respond with something that I think to myself, have I really helped that person? Have I really answered their question to the level that they wanted to? And I have to, you know, I think whenever you're in business, you've got to find that balance of, you know, you're not just helping people for free. You've got to earn some money at the end of the day. But exactly what you just said. The wife said to me, Sam, you've done like videos and posts and podcasts, and just divert them to those. Like if there is genuinely something that you have said. Like I get a lot of people asking to me about quite specific things, like, you know, service accommodation or social housing, because I do a lot of mortgages for those kind of things. I've got videos, you know, on those subjects, and I should probably get a lot better at diverting them on. But I feel like I haven't given them what they wanted. I'm just going, oh, just have a look at this. But what Emily, my wife, said was, you do realize that that's free. You're not charging them for me. It's not like you're going, oh, just go and buy my course. You're saying to them, I've actually answered this question in a really, really good way on a video. Go and check it out. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that, is there?
100% nothing wrong with that. And I echo everything that your wife just said there. I felt everything that you
She's
went
very
through.
wise, very wise.
She sounds it, yeah. And to be honest, my wife says the same. Maybe we should just listen to our wives at the end of this
Oh,
podcast.
let's not go too far. Come on.
But yeah, I mean, going back to that, I mean, one of my problems was I was a yes man, especially when I started this. So obviously, I was getting a bit of traction on Facebook back in the day, and people would say, "Can I have 5 minutes of your time?" Now, you know what 5 minutes of your time is? It's half an hour at best. So what I was doing was I was spending 4 or 5 hours, no exaggeration, a day, just trying to help people. And then what I'd realize is that person would never really come back. Well, what they did with that is obviously entirely up to them. And then it come to a point where I was like, I'm not getting no work done myself. So one of the reasons I actually started YouTube was I want to put something on there to divert people away, because I get asked the same questions. So a lot of the questions are what people asking me. Now what I do is I have like I'm not sure what it is, but you know when you type a word, but then it auto generates a lot of text on the iPhone. So I have something now, and essentially it's called like YouTube something. I can't remember. I've got a thing there. I'll type that in, and what it basically blasts them with a message saying, "Hey, thanks for the message. Please check out my YouTube channel. If I haven't answered it there, then you're welcome to book in a call with me." And up until 2 weeks ago, I used to do 15-minute calls every Friday for about 2 hours. I did that for about a year. And now what I've done is, and it's difficult because I'm seeing growth in myself, but I feel so uncomfortable with it, mate, is I'm now saying, if my YouTube doesn't work, or you've watched that and you still have harder questions and you need some of my time, I'll charge you for consultation. And I'm essentially saying to people, for 30 minutes of your, if you want 30 minutes of my time, I'm going to have to charge you. And because I feel so bad about that, we're actually giving them the Health Excel products that we manufacture and make for cost price. So I'm like, if you buy one of these, I'll sit with you for 30 minutes. That's my opportunity cost rather than working on my business. And that is growth for me. Some people that's normal everyday life, because I'm similar to yourself. I just want to keep helping people, but then you help people too much. And I know this through mental health as well. You have nothing left for yourself as well. So now I've really started to do that. And mate, the first time I'm sending it, I'm like, do I send this? Do I send this? And what you realize is some people won't spend 3 minutes to watch a video, yet they want 30 minutes of your time when it's convenient for them. And I think when I started to realize that, I was like, I can't do this because my time is just as valuable as theirs. They're using it on the basis that they're free now, but I'm not. So I think we have to, especially yourself as well, you know, you'll be getting loads of messages as a mortgage broker. You have to just be stricter with your time. And if people genuinely want to know the answer, they'll watch it on YouTube. I do. I learn all my stuff from YouTube, how to edit videos, how to do stuff. Most of it is from YouTube, and I've got no problem putting sweat equity in, but a lot of people won't do that. And I suppose one of my best friends always said to me, he goes, you should only put energy in, like if it's equal sacrifice. He goes, would that person do the same back for yourself? And I think just having that in the back of my mind, it really does now kind of give me a bit of boundaries. So yeah, if ever I spam anyone after this, it's me being respectful, because the chances I've probably already answered the question, if that makes sense. And I think you should definitely do that as well.
This has been one of my favorite podcast episodes so far, just because I'm getting so much out of it. I didn't even book in one of your consultations or anything. I just said, can you come on my podcast? I'm getting all this stuff for free. It's great.
That's a smart way of doing it.
Oh, you found out my secret. Yeah, I've got no interest in podcasting at all. In fact, this might not even ever go out. I just wanted to get some free time with people. Yeah, I love it. Can you imagine? But obviously, you've. I've been a big kind of fan, for want of a better phrase, of yours and what you do for quite some time, and I've been following you on Instagram in particular for a long time now. And it has been kind of recently that I've just seen like your numbers go nuts. You've kind of gone from, you know, what you would kind of call normal numbers for somebody in what you do to kind of almost like influencer type figures. Of course. That seems to have happened in a really short space of time. Like, was that purposeful? You've changed the way you're doing stuff to try and to engage people, or is it just it just happened off the back of you just keep producing good content?
No, absolutely. So I recognize straight away. So obviously we started the health business, Health Excel, that we started to build a community before launching. So it's taken us 15 months to launch the business, but prior to that, we started almost posting every day on Instagram, and we recognized very quickly that the organic reach on Instagram is not great. I actually got this from Gary, by the way, so he didn't copy me for this. So I started to learn about different platforms. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I love YouTube. If I could just do YouTube every day and it paid the bills, that's probably what I'd do. Now, YouTube implemented this thing, and initially they implemented it in India called YouTube Shorts. Now, I knew about this about 8-9 months ago. Essentially, it's a very short video. So what I was doing was watching a lot of that. and trying to understand how to make that work. So people like Mr. Beast are probably the best at it. And essentially you got to get someone in with a hook. So it could just be like, here's how I made 30 grand. Boom, straight away, somebody's interested. Then you try and keep them going as long as possible, because watch time is the key in terms of your story. And I love storytelling anyway. So most of my videos, funnily enough, I actually sit down and I write them before I do it. I don't just shoot. So I have almost like a script, and then I use like a teleprompter to use that. So I started releasing YouTube shorts, and I had all these videos ready. I used to put them on Snapchat here and there. And then I just thought, let me just put some on Instagram. So I did some on Instagram, I think the back end of last year. And they went up. They'd go to like 1,000 views, and I'd be like, bloody hell, that was quick in a few hours. Nothing, no followers, nothing from it. And then anyway, I had all these videos there, and I'm bored, and I've just sat on Instagram. I thought, forget it. And I just uploaded loads of them, like 10, 20 of them. And I've completely left it. About 3 or 4 weeks later, this was about 2 weeks ago, actually, 3 weeks ago, when lockdown, we were first allowed to go visit people. Me and the wife went to go visit my parents. So we're sitting outside, and all of a sudden I'm getting notifications on my phone from Instagram. And I don't normally get notifications because, like you said, my profile was up on about 1,200 followers, and it's going off. And I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here? Like, what's happened? And I've checked, and one of those videos has suddenly just blown. So it's gone from like 500 views or something, I think it was about that much, to 7,000. Now, 7,000 for me on Instagram is like, whoa, this is crazy. Like,
is this like reels, or is this just like your standard?
it's a reel. So this is a reel, yeah. And it was actually about, I think it was first time buyers, something about first time buyers. So that's gone to 7K, and I'm thinking, wow, this is crazy. And I'm getting some people following me as well. So there's a few types of viral videos. You get some where people just like it, or some people will follow you. And most of my videos, I always have a call to action as well. Like, if you want to learn more about property, you know where to click, for example. Long story short is, I think after a few days, it went to like 200K. And that brought in a hell of a lot of traffic. And I looked at my, you can look at like the back end of it, and it was just like spike. It was like dead, boom, like somebody just come alive kind of thing. And I thought, okay, rinse and repeat. So I had all these videos anyway. The problem with YouTube is you have 60-second videos. With Instagram, it's 30. So I was like, oh, I've got to record these again. So I was trying to dissect them essentially. So I dissected them to 30 seconds. I love editing anyway, because I just find my message, otherwise I find it really boring. I hate listening back, but I think if I can add captions and a bit of Premiere Pro editing and stuff, I can make it a little bit better. So yeah, long story short, I got 15 of my drafts at the minute as we speak. So wow. I just sat there just creating. And then all I did is started releasing two every day. And then as a result of it, I think this morning I hit 15K, which is crazy, because
that's insane. Because that's like, even since the last time I looked at your account, which was, I think, at the beginning of, like, in the last week, it was like 13.
Yeah,
it's like 2,000 people in like less than a week.
Crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's absolutely, well, considering before that I had it for like a year and a half, and I got to 1,200, for example. But what I realized was I wasn't intentional with Instagram. I was kind of just posting my thumbnails for YouTube, because again, I'm trying to take this audience into YouTube. But yeah, if you're on Reels and you're listening, you want to grow your business, think about the hook. Try and add some music. Try and add captions, because I've got some people now who watch my videos and essentially they're deaf, so they read the stuff as well. So you're catering for all formats. And then have a call to action as well. Don't just have the best video and then people don't know where to go. And I know it sounds really stupid, but telling people to subscribe and like and stuff, it's a proven formula that works. So you have to do it. So yeah, it's been good, but I don't get as excited as you get with a message request that you mentioned earlier. It just makes me more anxious, because I'll get down to like 50 and it's like 90 something today. I'm like, I can't keep this up.
It's try. I mean, look, if I was getting a number of messages you're getting, I think I'd really struggle just fitting things into the day. But it is kind of like, it's almost like a cycle, isn't it? You create stuff. I mean, so this is the way that I see it. And I don't know whether this is kind of your format as well. Is I love doing this. I love speaking at events. I love getting questions from people. I always make sure that when I'm presenting at events, I always make sure that I have a Q&A section. I do a live video on Instagram every Monday where I get people asking me questions. These questions I use to create content, because I know that they're the questions people are asking. So, I get a lot on the similar sort of subjects. I'm like, boom, that's a YouTube video waiting to happen. That YouTube video I can turn into 2 or 3 videos that I can put on 1 minute videos on Instagram, for example. But then what happens is I see this success in waves. So I'll get like a month where it goes really good, but then the next month I've got twice as many messages that I'll then get off the back of it, which, as I said, is amazing. But I remember listening to podcasts and people like Gary Vaynerchuk or Rob Moore or people like this that have obviously over the last decade have really become almost like famous, and even though they're not on Netflix or whatever, but they are still famous to the right audience. And they were saying years ago, you get to the point where you don't have enough time to reply to all your messages. How do you deal with that? And certainly I can imagine, we share this same philosophy of, wanting to help people and getting quite anxious about that. It's a concern of mine. I'm not quite there just yet, but I manage it. I answer questions generally, or answer messages in first thing in the morning or last thing at night. So I've got like times a day when I do it. But my concern is if the number doubled, how would I actually be able to deal with that? And the answer is, as things stand right now, I wouldn't be able to answer every single question, which that brings its own anxiety to me. That's a really sad thought that might happen at some point. So I might have to just do what you do, I'll just divert them to your YouTube channel.
Yeah. To be honest, I think it happens with everyone. And I think on such a small scale, like 15K, I now understand why when I used to reach out to influencers, they never responded to me. Sometimes I'd be like, come on, like I'm messaging you literally every week. Like there's some of my favorites out there and I never get a response. So I think people have to appreciate that. I think what you're doing is amazing in terms of the live videos every week. So it gives people an opportunity. Doing a live video absolutely scares the hell out of me. I won't do it.
Do you know what? I love it. Like I come off that video and like I'll go into like the living room or something. And my wife's on furlough, so she'll be in there. She'll be watching TV or something, and she'll be knackered because actually the funny thing is doing nothing all day is probably one of the tiring thing you can do. She's just knackered all the time. And we've discussed off air. She's certainly somebody that has suffered from mental health issues over the years, and she's very open with it. And I'm so proud of her for how she deals with everything that she deals with. But I'll come in off the back of doing one of those live videos, and I'm bouncing around like, full of energy. I'm like a puppet or something, just jumping around. And she's looking at me like, would you just sit down and watch this crap on TV with me for 10 minutes, please? And so, mate, it's a buzz, and it's almost like you get to help loads of people in a short space of time. It's like a quick fire round of value. And that's not me trying to big myself up. I'm lucky. I've been doing what I do for a long time. So I do know my craft, and I know how this whole industry works. And so it doesn't happen too often that I get a question fired at me that I have no idea how to answer it. The only problem I generally have is if I can't read it properly because they've kind of like shortened it down, or when I bring it up on the screen, it cuts it off or something like that. That's the only problem that I have. So maybe I've got quite a lot of confidence in my ability to do that, which helps. But seriously, it's like a proper buzz. You get like a real adrenaline boost.
I love that.
Doing it. It's wicked. It's so much fun.
I might try it one day. I'll probably need a few beers first, but then I might not talk sense.
We'll do one together. I'll break you in.
Yeah. I have actually done it with other people, like joined a kind of live. I think the thought of doing it myself, that's scary. So my wife's on TikTok and she's got a huge presence on there. And I did join one of her lives just to answer a couple of questions. And I think it was easier kind of just jumping in with her a little bit.
Yeah.
But
it's sometimes easier to be Robin than Batman.
Yeah, absolutely. I only like to be Batman when I can edit the stuff and I can send it out there.
When you have the control.
YouTube. Yeah, absolutely. I need a bit more control. But maybe that's my goal for this year, to try and do that.
So I was gonna ask you, and I know that we're kind of almost running out of time a little bit, but I'm really keen to know how all the stuff that you're doing, the stuff that you love doing, the YouTube, the content creation and all the value that you're giving to people, how it's actually affected your business as an investor, because I would imagine it's opened a lot of doors for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of like raising finance it's never been an issue for myself, being completely transparent. If anything, I've probably been offered more money in the last 2 weeks because of my profile than I've raised in the last 5 years before that. So yeah, it's great for myself, but again, it's strange. I look at myself now, maybe I'm comfortable. I'm quite comfortable in where I am. I haven't got that same fire in my belly that I had 5 years ago when I was knocking on every single door. posting leaflets, getting rejected from estate agents every single day. And I was going to sleep every night thinking, should I just go back to a 9 to 5? Like, am I doing the right thing? I had those in certain moments for so long. And I think I'm a little bit lazy now, because what I've done is, through kissing a lot of bad frogs, I've got a good team around me now who essentially, they find the deals, they do the renovation. All I got to do is find the funds. I'm like, you find it, I'll fund it. And essentially, I kind of put myself in the middle. I always put my own funds into every deal as well. So essentially, like, my biggest project, that one that I mentioned earlier, the 2.6 million one, the build team's already there. They owned the land previously. We've come in as shareholders, essentially. We bought some shares from the land. I haven't got to do anything other than learn. Now, I am interested in learning because I believe skill set is huge, and I want to become the best at what I do in anything. So I will be on site every day. I will be trying to pick that up and stuff. But in terms of like my everyday stuff, it's opened a lot of doors, like doing all this stuff. But at the same time, my life's a lot easier in that perspective. And I'm so grateful. I couldn't be any happier in terms of, I get to do what I get to work with my wife. She's my business partner now. She's, my best friend. We get to do that 6 days a week. Bless her heart. She does work every Wednesday. So this is kind of a sad day where she has to leave and actually do a 9 to 5 job. But, she'll come out of that soon as well, because again, if I had a bit more of that drive 3 years ago, I was saying this to her the other night, I'd probably be out there trying to find another deal, because I had an investor recently approach me saying, because I said to him, I said, most of my funds are tied up now in the next 2 deals. And he says, go shopping like those funds are back out, like go shopping with a free budget. And that's a great thing to hear, especially for a property investor. But the desire for me, I sit here, I'm like, I'd rather make a YouTube video, or, I'd rather try and get more audience towards Health Excel, for example. So I'm happy with that decision. And I think, whatever decision anyone makes, you should just be happy with them. I know that in 5 years' time, it might not be the best decision, but I'm happy in this moment. So for myself, I get to live on my kind of own terms. Maybe once we kind of go back out, because there is a bit of anxiety in terms of going back out there as well for myself. A lot of people caught COVID around me. I know a lot of people that died from it as well. I think once I'm fully back out on site and stuff, I might start looking for a few more deals and really ramp up that portfolio a little bit. But again, as we touched earlier, and you said about my body language, property is like okay, it almost become the
It's
9 to 5.
kind of
Yeah. And I wish it wasn't, because leaving 9 to 5, I'll never go back to a 9 to 5. And I don't want property to become the 9 to 5. It doesn't have to be for me. I just need to find that spark again. And the way I normally find spark is through progression. I'm a keen believer that we can become great at anything over a long enough period of time. So for myself, I do want to become a really good developer. I do want to be able to understand what's going on, the foundations, everything. Because anytime I've made a mistake, it's because I haven't had enough knowledge, or somebody's pulled the wool over my eyes, for example. So I'm excited for this next chapter, because I'll acquire a skill set essentially that will allow me, if we build 20 plus units this year, I'll be able to build something from scratch. So yeah, it's I'm happy. I mean, I'm not even sure if that answered the question there, mate. I do apologize. Yeah.
Do you know what it is? It's there's 2 things that I picked up on that. Number one is a kind of almost a negative thing. Another one is a positive thing. The positive thing is obviously the way you are currently in your life. You just said you're happy. People search for happiness. They pursue happiness. That's what people are trying to do constantly with their lives. I think what people lack is the patience that happiness might just not be round the corner. You might have to get rejected from a ton of agents, go round in the pouring rain, delivering.
I've done that as well.
I don't know who Wayne is. To deliver leaflets and all this kind of stuff. That's this game of success is not easy. It's why only a few people are successful, because they're the people that just keep going and going and going. And the other point that you I don't even think you maybe meant to mention it, is this whole we're coming out of COVID thing. Like, oh my God, how do we deal with life? Because I'll be honest with you, there's part of me that's like, do I want to go to the pub and like sit with people and chat about stuff again? Like back in the day, like before COVID, my favorite thing to do was Sunday afternoon in the pub watching rugby with a few Guinnesses. That's like ideal. That's like heaven for me. Yeah. Now I'm thinking about that going, but then people are just going to be talking to me about what am I going to talk to them about? Because I've just spent the last year just on podcasts and talking about property and finance. I don't actually know how to talk about anything else anymore. So I'm genuinely concerned about how my social life is going to change. So I think there's a lot of people that are going to feel exactly the same way.
No, absolutely. I think as humans, we're very, very quick to adapt to any situation. I think we've just adapted to living in our 4 walls. That's something that I noticed. So yeah, we have that level of anxiety as well. I also, it's funny because I have a really bad immune system. So ever since I was a kid, I've always been ill. I've always been known as the guy with the tissue. A lot of my podcasts, you can tell that I've got a cold because my nose is always nasally. So it's funny that I have that fear that, yes, I work out seven days a week when I can. I've always been into fitness and trying to put the odds in my favor. But I also have that fear. And again, it's just my own story that I'm going to be that guy that people are going to say, Mr. Fitness, Mr. Personal Trainer for 10 years dies of COVID. And I'm like, and I think
should
that
laugh, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I laugh at it as well because I think I will be that one example, and then you'll get the other people saying, "See, I told you you shouldn't be healthy," for example. Whereas, and I think that's a little bit of my anxiety as well. And also, I'm now getting flooded with like WhatsApps, as most of us are, of let's all meet up, and it's not just one to one; it's like a group of you. And again, that yeah, I am really struggling a little bit in terms of putting myself out there again. I have started football. I love football. Football is like my kind of release. But yeah, I think a lot of people will
Based
struggle
on where you
with
are,
it.
Wolves fan?
I'm a Man United fan. Yeah.
What? Come on.
There's no correlation or anything. Well, my dad was a United fan, so I had no choice.
Enough.
Yeah. How about yourself?
I literally, I'm the most embarrassing football supporter. I'm not a big football fan, but I support Barnet, who are bottom of the conference right now.
I wouldn't even know where they are.
exactly. North London through and through. Do you know, funny story? Like just completely off topic.
Yeah.
My grandparents are Arsenal fans. My dad's a Chelsea fan. My mum's a Tottenham fan. When I was a tiny kid, I had like a little Tottenham kit my mum bought me. Didn't like that. My dad took me to Stamford Bridge when I was like, I don't know, 6 or something, bought me the full kit with socks, the works, Chelsea kit. My grandparents got in on the act. I think I had about 3 Arsenal kits. I had a Arsenal goalkeeper kit when I was a kid. God knows why I needed that. And then I got to about 12 or 13, and my uncle said, thought to himself, for the same price of an Arsenal kit, I could probably just buy this kid a season ticket at Barnet. It was back in League Two days. And it took me, and it was great. It was crap bovril and a horrible burger on a terrace, shouting at 11 blokes that could barely string a pass together. I was like, this is great, and that was it ever since.
I love that. See, I never got that opportunity, so yeah, sadly I had to support the greatest team in the world, Man United.
Yeah, look, you and I have a lot in common on that. So, because I'm not the biggest football fan, I'm actually a massive rugby fan, and the team that I support, Saracens, are basically like the Man United,
right? Okay.
Of rugby, and everyone hates Saracens. Absolutely everyone hates Saracens
because they're the best. Yeah.
Because we are. We are just the best. So I can, I get it. It's horrible. But I was disappointed. I thought you were going to say Wolves fan, but it's all right.
And actually, my local team would be West Brom. So I was actually born in West Brom, just around the corner from West Brom. So that would actually be my local, which is actually Wolverhampton's rivals. So,
of course. Yeah. So this is the one thing from moving to the West Midlands that's weird for me, is that I'm used to walking around town seeing everyone with Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham shirts on. And now everyone's wearing Villa, West Brom and Wolves shirts. Yeah. And the occasional Walsall shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not too far as well. So did you move to West Midlands recently then?
Yeah. So we moved just before lockdown. So so it's funny because I'll be chatting to people and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, so you're quite near, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "No idea what you're talking about, mate. I've literally I've walked around the block." Although that's how we got the name for the company, Grand Union Finance, because I look out the window and it's the Grand Union Canal, just shooting down to London. So it's the thing that connects me to where I grew up. So
I love that.
Yeah, no, it's lovely. It's lovely being up here. Everyone's really nice and chatty.
I like to think we're more friendly. Yeah, absolutely.
100%. Although I was that one weird Londoner who was the guy on the train that would chat to you and like say hello, and the people just look at you like, have you got some sort of disease? Like, what's wrong with you? Why do you think it's okay for you to talk to a complete stranger? So just being nice.
I love that. Well, welcome to the West Midlands, mate. Happy to have you.
Thank you. No, it's lovely to be here, and it's been amazing also to have you on the podcast today, Aaron. Honestly,
thank you.
This has been wicked. I was keeping an eye on the time, like I said I would. With every kind of 10 minutes or so that was going past, I was like, but we haven't talked about this. So we might have to do a part 2 at some point.
Absolutely. It'd be my pleasure.
There's been a lot that we probably haven't covered. In fact, we didn't talk about property investing a lot, did we? So, that's always nice to get off topic. But Aaron, look, I know that there's going to be a lot of people that would have listened to this that are going, do you know what? I really want to check out these reels. I really want to have a look at these YouTube videos. So over and above that, I know maybe if they reach out to you, you might just direct them to your YouTube channel anyway, but I'll help you with that. What is the best way of people reaching out to you if they do maybe want to book a consultation to have a chat with you, or they want to view any of your videos or content online?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that and giving me the opportunity. The Anxious Investor on YouTube is probably the best place. So I'm not big time enough that I get many comments. You know, some of them are my mom and my wife and my brother. So if you comment there, I'll definitely respond at least within 48 hours. So that's probably the best place. Ideally, try and keep it around the video. I do get some random people now just asking me the most random question on any sort of video. And obviously on Instagram as well, the Anxious Investor as well. That's probably the best place. And I will try. I've made a promise that I will get through every DM, even if it's a quick voice note or just a thank you.
Oh, voice notes are the greatest thing since last week for me.
Yeah.
So easy.
You send them and you're awesome at it. But the problem is when you send them to me, I'm normally half asleep in terms of my voice hasn't actually woken up yet. And I'm thinking, nah, I'll just type back. But yeah, I appreciate it.
Do you know the worst thing with them though is if you do a lot of them, then you get a response and somebody's asking a follow-up question, you can't remember what you actually
what you said.
You can't read back, so you've got to listen to your own voice notes again. But but Aaron, I did give you the little warning that before I let you go, I can't let you go before asking you the most important question.
The most important question,
which is what your favorite chocolate is, because I have found that during lockdown, all three of them, I've come to terms with that. We were talking about admitting when we have problems. I certainly have an issue, and it is that if there is chocolate in the house, it doesn't really last that long. So I'm always keen to hear what my guest's favorite chocolate is. So over to you, Aaron.
It's got to be Kinder Bueno.
Yes.
It's got to be. Yeah. Although I literally anything, and for some reason in second lockdown, I was addicted to double deckers. And it was the first time at the age of 34 that I actually tasted one. So I think the first time I had that was pretty nice.
Double decker, old school. I like there are certain chocolate bars you don't see all that often, but they're some of my favorites, like a Star Bar. Have you seen one of them?
Yeah, so I had one of those about 2 years ago as well. I was like, why hasn't nobody introduced me to this?
I feel like they have been around forever, but like you never see an advert for a Star Bar. Nah, you see an advert for like a 12, but not a Star Bar. And the other one is a snack. Have you ever seen this?
Snack, mate. Snacks are awesome. Snacks are awesome. When I did my 9 to 5 project management in London, we had a vending machine, and literally every lunchtime, like my salary was going on snacks.
100% they've got smaller. Like, I swear you used to get 6 and now you get 4 or something. It's just bloody Cadbury. It's just around the corner as well. I'm gonna have to go and
you'll have to check it out.
It's not happy about it. But you talk about the Kinder Bueno. So this is like free publicity. So there's a place in Stratford called The Farm. I don't know if you've ever come across it. It's like it's a farm, but it's a really nice, like quite posh farm shop. And my wife went there with her mum recently, like when we were allowed. And she brought back a Kinder Bueno cookie. Mate, it was just
I need to try that.
Next level. It literally had a bit of a Kinder Bueno on the top of it, like sort of emulsioned on with melted Kinder Bueno with just like little chunks of Kinder Bueno in it. It was just
heaven
out of this world. And cookies, donuts, the lot. I got the sweetest tooth. I'm actually salivating. I'm struggling to get
I can see it, mate. I was just going to say how you were speaking initially about body language. I was just seeing your body language completely change.
Talking about sweet snacks.
One of my guilty pleasures is watching people eat, as weird as that sounds. So I suffered with binge eating disorder back in the day. So I lost a lot of body weight. I got to 5% body fat. Suppressed myself from all my favorite things. The moment I stopped training for boxing, I essentially started gorging a lot. So there's a guy called Matt Stoney on YouTube. I'm not sure if you watch him, but he's a competitive eater. Essentially, he eats like a McDonald's kiddies meal in 60 seconds or a Domino's pizza in like 120 seconds. And he has all these amazing creations of food. And as obviously I started watching him, there's other creators as well. Like there's Beard Meats Food. He's a guy from Yorkshire who just tries to eat like 15 buckets of KFC, for example, in one sitting. And it's funny because as you were saying all that, I was like, I could see you doing a chocolate show, pretty much the same thing. So maybe like every Monday or something, if you just started, I don't know, I'm promoting diabetes here and I shouldn't be doing this, but if you did that and looked after your health on the other days, mate, you could be a big hit.
I wouldn't be able to eat anything for 6 days a week.
Starve yourself for 6 days and then have a blast.
And then one day a week, literally eat my weight in chocolate.
Mate, absolutely. Because I've seen the happiness in your face and it's making me happy, and I think people will love it.
But do you know what's also great about doing this and asking this question is, especially more recently, I've had a few like out of the box kind of suggestions. I'm like, wow, haven't tried that before. And I'll then go and try them. I go and try them. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like there was this Tony's that Caroline Tolman told me about, and I've tried that. And I'm like, oh my God. And it's so expensive as well. It's like £5 a bar. But I'm just like, I can't not. I go to a shop, and if I see it, I'm like, oh, there we go, 2 bars of that, thanks. I've actually lost a little bit of weight during lockdown as well, and I can just feel it piling on when I'm just even thinking about it.
Just thinking about it.
Oh, well, look, before I salivate so much that I can't get my words out anymore, I'll let you get back to your very busy day. But Aren, thanks ever so much for coming on, sharing some amazing insight into what you do on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, looking forward to catching up on some awesome YouTube videos coming out very soon, I'm sure.
Absolutely, mate. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
No worries. Thanks, Aren.